Hello, everyone. Sharon's just letting people in from the waiting room. We'll get started in a moment. I just have to grab one thing from the printer. Hang on one second.
Lorraine, you just see the PowerPoint, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So just so everyone knows, we are recording this and you can get started.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Josephine Connolly Skonen. I am the director of our nutrition division here at Stony Brook Medicine, as well as our dietetic internship program. So we'll be chatting with you today about our distance track. And before we go any further, I just want some people to introduce themselves. Sharon, if you'd go first.
Sure. My name is Sharon Schmidt. I am the administrator for the program, both the on-site and the distance. I also help Leah out with the master's program. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us really, but I can help you throughout the application process and beyond with any questions.
And Lorraine.
So I'm Lorraine Danowski, and I am the Associate Director of the Dietetic Internship Program. And I work along with Sharon, Josephine, and Kara, who is our coordinator, who is busy having a baby. So
Two babies
actually. So she's quite busy. And the distance track we started a few years ago and has done very well. And so I do some biweekly phone calls in Kara's absence and when she was on her honeymoon and so forth. So I would probably be, besides Sharon, the next person you'd probably have the most contact with.
And Leah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Leah Holbrook. I'm the Associate Director for the Graduate Nutrition Program. So I'll be speaking to you in a bit about the opportunity that you have to do a master's alongside the DI. Welcome.
Okay, next slide, please. All right, so first I'm just going to explain a little bit about the Stony Brook Nutrition Division. Even though you are distance or considering being a distance DI, you will come here for a few days of your orientation and review week. And also just to give you a sense as to the greater entity that the internship is part of, because all of the work that we do throughout the different programs I'm going to explain do help to inform the curriculum, and faculty involved with different programs do provide workshops and resources for our distance DIs. So first on the left, well, I'm kind of smack in the middle. I report up through the hospital as well as up through the Academic School of Medicine, which does allow me to bring a lot of resources into the internship program, including the distance DI. And we'll explain some of that as we go. On the left in blue, we have our clinical inpatient team. So we're a 604-bed hospital with a cancer center, a burn center, a neonatal intensive care unit, many ICUs. So the inpatient staff does help to develop a lot of the workshops for your orientation so that we get you ready and prepared to rotate in various places. But we give you all the background information and make sure that you're ready to hit the ground running when you get to your rotation sites. We have a women, infant, and child supplemental food and nutrition program. So our expertise in maternal and child health is driven by the folks in this program, and they help develop some of the curriculum related to that. Lorraine and I both have outpatient clinics you see on the bottom. So we are, as well as professors, we are active in the field. We see lots of patients each week now through telehealth, but also on site. And so a lot of the case studies we provide are based on our actual patients that we see. It also requires that we stay up to date on our evidence-based nutrition practices and therefore can share that with you. In the yellow, we have our public health nutrition program. We do work with a lot of community-based organizations throughout Suffolk County, and we work a bit with New York State Department of Health. So wherever you choose to do your public health rotation in whatever part of the country you're coming from, our experience and work here will help guide that your experience through that rotation. Of course, your on-site preceptor will primarily be leading that, but as Lorraine mentioned, one of the highlights, which we'll get to, are that we keep in touch with you via biweekly video conference calls. So we do make sure that you're meeting all the competencies, including those in public health, and our experience comes to bear there. We have our Stony Brook Heights rooftop farm, which you might see when you come visit us, but not something that you'll necessarily get hands-on experience with. So you may have to do your weeding and seedling growing elsewhere, maybe your own backyard. We have our master's program, which Leah will speak about in depth, and then our internship program, which of course you're going to learn all about as we move forward. And I just want to invite folks to ask questions as we go. If there's anything that comes up on a slide, don't feel like you have to wait till the end, and feel free to, and we'll give you plenty of opportunities to ask questions. Okay, next slide.
Okay, so admission into the internship requirements. So we have to screen because we get a fair amount of applications. And the first screen that we use is really looking at your bachelor's degree, and we look at the GPA. And of course, a GPA of 3.2 is preferred. We also make sure that you have a declaration either of intent to complete if you're still actively in school, or if you've completed that you have a verification statement. We do look at your work and volunteer experience. And if granted an interview, it's usually 3 of our faculty members. And that counts for a lot of points on our application scoring sheet. We do like the written stuff to look at. Of course, we like your personal statement and we look at everything, but we feel that we want interns that can, think and act on their feet. And so we do give scenario questions, and our interview really does, count for a lot of points on how you perform. You have to complete all required didactic and undergraduate coursework before the start of the internship. We do not require any GREs. You do have to complete the supplemental forms, the proposed rotation schedule, and preceptor qualification form or forms on the program website. So you do have to go there to see what is needed from the preceptors and the proposed rotation schedule. And we encourage you to start looking for sites if you're, if you plan to do this as soon as possible, because that does tend to take a while. You do have to have the ability to travel to SBU. And we have orientation week there is July 11th through the 15th, 2022. And then we have you come back again for evaluation and review week, April 24th through the 28th.
And keep in mind that your degree must be conferred and you must have your verification statement before you start here in July. Sometimes students will take that one last summer course and their verification statement might not be sometime in the summer. And for this particular program, that's an issue. So keep that in mind. Okay, next slide. Oh, that's me. Okay, so on our website, I do have an application checklist. I encourage you to use it, not required to fill it out, but hopefully you'll find it helpful. Literally checking off the boxes as you go down the necessary steps to apply to our dietetic internship program. For the distance application, there are extra steps, as Lorraine mentioned, and we'll talk about them in future slides regarding finding sites and completing the required forms. If you are applying to the on-site program, in addition to the distance program, there is only one application fee for Stony Brook. So there's a DICAS application fee, and I'm not sure, to be honest, if you have to then submit 2 fees for each program. But in addition to that, there is a Stony Brook application fee, which you can get to via our website. And if you're applying to both programs, you would only have to pay that particular fee once. The applications are similar, that's easy enough. And if you are interested in the on-site and you didn't attend the earlier session that we had today, no worries. The recording will be out there next week, and we have another one in January. So that's all I have.
Okay. So you do have two options open for you. So the first option is full-time experience, and that would be in 10 months. So you would complete all the dietetic internship orientation, rotations, evaluation and review week in less than 10 months. And so we give you the tentative dates there, July 11th, 2022 through April 28th, 2023. The part-time option, which would be a little longer, but it's supposed to be under 2 years. So this one would take about 22 months. You complete the dietetic internship orientation, rotations, evaluation, and review week within, like I said, the 2 years. And so we give you the dates there, July 11th, 2022 and early May 2024. Orientation would be in year 1. Evaluation and review week would be in year 2. And you must be duly matriculated in the SBU MS or have a previous MS degree to select the part-time option. 2024 is the first year you'll be required to have a master's to sit for the exam. And so if you do take the part-time option in this case, you will fall in that category where it'll take you, you'll graduate in 2024, well, that will be a requirement. Any questions about this part of it? Okay. So the internship rotations, you have 1 on-site week of orientation, and we have the date there for you. And the nutrition therapy is a total of 600 hours, and you are required to have 2 different sites. And we do this because we want to give you a wide variety and make sure you're really able to perform in a hospital setting, in an outpatient setting, and a variety of settings. So site 1, the interns must rotate at least 262.5 hours. And it's either a Joint Commission accredited or nationally accredited acute care facility, such as a hospital. It could be a large or small community hospital. And that's a deal breaker. That has to be one of those sites because we do function in hospitals and we do need you to have those assessment and counseling skills that you get only really from being in a hospital, how to calculate a tube feeding and TPN, and some of the ICU experience, and that you really only get in the hospital. The other 337.5 hours can be in a different facility. And you can do longer hours at site 1 if you want to have a longer experience in a hospital. We just give you the minimum hours. The examples include for site 2 would be a long-term care facility, such as a nursing home, an outpatient healthcare facility, bariatric center, diabetes center, dialysis, and or eating disorder center. So those would all fit the category for the site 2. Food service management is 150 hours. And you can, and it does have to be in a place that does a therapeutic diet, such as a nursing home or hospital. And if you're getting contracts, it's easiest if you can combine. So if you could do your site 1 and then do your food service there, that's likely 1 contract. And that would be easier for you to get that done and fulfill both of those 2 rotations. Community nutrition is 262.5 hours as well. You have an elective that's 75 hours. The renal is 30 hours, and that's completely virtual. You may supplement that at a dialysis center if that's what you would like for your site 2. And you have a longitudinal research rotation that gets done throughout the course of the internship, and that you do after hours with Josephine Connolly Skonen, who develops the research question with you and takes you through the whole process, how to gather data, how to analyze, and I think there's a certain amount of writing that you do as well with that. And it's either usually a real research question or it's a robust CQI project, which also will help your skills when you go to get your first job. We also have an on-site evaluation and review week where we evaluate your skills, especially for the nutrition-focused physical exam, but we also review and get you ready for the exam, which is also important. And we give you a database of questions that you can practice with during that week and also when you leave in preparation for the test.
You can see we're very detail oriented, that we have the 0.5. Just the reason why it's 0.5 is it's based on a 7.5-hour workday. We should probably round that in the future. And the community nutrition can be at places like a woman, infant, child supplemental food program, a cooperative extension office. Every state, every land grant institution has a state cooperative extension. In New York, it's Cornell Cooperative Extension, or food bank, or
Supermarket is another that I've seen a lot of.
which one, Chad?
Supermarkets.
Oh yeah, more and more supermarkets are employing RDs as well. So you get to be, pretty creative there. Just wanted to mention that.
And I did see there was one question about, do you find your own sites? We do try to guide you, but yes, you will be finding your own sites and your own preceptors. We have previous interns who are preceptors in other across the country. We have interns now that have gone to previous sites. A&D has on their website also, I think, find a preceptor option. But the bulk of it is we usually have you reach out to places where you've worked in the past, maybe previous professors who have connections in certain facilities, and that's a good starting point.
So remember, you do need to find your sites. Sharon will go through this in a moment, before you apply to us. So that is, the distance DI are usually folks that want to or need to stay where you currently are located for a variety of different reasons, maybe a job, family obligations, and you network in your community. So that is that this is a student identified distance track. So it is a challenge. And it's something that you need to be very aware of. And if you're considering this, to really start very, very soon, because there are a lot of distance programs now. So a lot of people are calling local hospitals and whatnot to find sites. So that is something that you would want to start very soon. Sharon will explain a little bit more in the
One
next
of the
slide.
benefits of living where you live and not having to relocate for the internship and going to a local hospital, for example, is if you're rotating at that hospital, it can then become a great job opportunity for you. So keep that in mind. It's certainly one of the perks of the distance program. Because we've seen that in our short life with this distance program a few years now, multiple interns have been hired by their sites after going through our program.
And it's usually cost effective too.
Very much so. Okay, so as Josephine said, you will need, this is a student identified site program. So you need to find preceptors and sites for your nutrition therapy 1 and 2, your food service management, your elective, and your community rotations. Research is us, and renal is virtual. So on our website, you will find a sample rotation schedule like you see on the screen now, and it kind of lays out this fake intern's schedule of rotations. What I highly recommend to you is to not rotate at your hospital first. Hospitals are the trickiest to get contracts through. There's often many layers that we have to go through. It's not impossible, but it just takes time. And whereas your community, often the RD, especially if it's private practice, for example, that RD is going to sign the contract themselves. So those are going to go through much quicker. So I recommend that you push your nutrition therapy site 1 in particular later in your rotation schedule. Give us time to have those negotiations back and forth to be able to get that contract executed before your start date. And if you're going to put the food service and the nutrition 1 or 2 together, put that a little later too for the same reason. I do encourage you to do that because it's one less contract, but if that contract doesn't go through, then you're stuck. But we've had a lot of luck with contracts. These sites are, negotiating. I can only think of one hospital that said, we just had to walk away from. Usually we're able to negotiate with them, but there's no guarantees. And if we're not able to get a contract executed, unfortunately, you're going to have to find another site. So that's my recommendation when completing your rotation schedule. Get out there now, as Josephine said, and try, secure these sites. But do what you can to try to push those particular rotations later. So when you're completing your DICAS application, which is due February 15th, as part of that application, as a supplemental, I hope to see this rotation schedule, this sheet filled out for you, and attached to that, all of your preceptor qualification forms, which I'll show you on the next slide, which is basically an agreement with the preceptor, and they're signing off saying, yes, I agree to precept this student this particular time frame, whatever. So I need all of those forms with this rotation schedule with your DICAS application. Keep in mind that you cannot secure sites in Suffolk County. It can be in Nassau County, it can be in New York City, anywhere outside of Suffolk County. It cannot be in Suffolk County. All of these forms are located on our website, and if you have problems finding any of them, please feel free to reach out to me, or if you have questions filling them out. On the next slide, I'll show you is the preceptor qualification form. So this, I would encourage you to fill this out for the most part, and then on the flip side of this is where you and the preceptor would sign off on this. So I'd expect to see 4, 5, 6 of these for all your different rotations attached to your rotation schedule as a supplemental on your DICAS application. Does anybody have questions on any of that? It is a lot. These preceptors that you're reaching out to, most of them have done this in the past. So they're very familiar with, every school has their nuances, but they're familiar with this kind of thing. So don't be afraid, go out there and ask them. And we do have forms on our website, like there's a flyer that you can present to them about, the benefits for them to being a preceptor for us, which includes, not only do they earn credit for doing it for their CPU credits, but they can also be part of our monthly journal club meetings or almost monthly journal club presentations. So there's other perks involved for them in addition to you helping them as a student. And then there's also a listing, sorry, Joe, I don't want to lose it in my head. There's also a listing on our website of where to find some preceptors. Lorraine mentioned the Find a Preceptor on A&D's website, but we also have a listing of all the sites that we've secured contracts with through previous interns. So it might mean a relocation for a particular rotation, but those are sites that if you can get an RD in that building to agree to take you, I have a contract ready to go. So that's helpful in some ways, especially if it's in your area. Okay, go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
And Sharon created this awesome form about the benefits of precepting that's on our website. So I would recommend sending an email with that form attached, and first, and then following up with a phone call referring to that email. But I also just want to put my mentor hat on. We don't. We really don't want to take your money. You really should be cautious about paying for a dietetic internship program without having sites secured. Because ultimately in a student identified program, we do everything we can to help you, but it ultimately is your responsibility. And you just want to make sure that you have these forms secured and these arrangements made so that you can follow through. And I'm going to be honest, COVID has made that a little bit more challenging. Some sites are more reluctant right now to take students into their site because of COVID, and there'll probably be testing requirements. You certainly will have to be vaccinated. I guess I really shouldn't say that because I'm not sure about different parts of the country. So just, keep that in mind. We want you to be successful. We want you to find a program that's a good fit for you. And, for our distance DI, securing the sites ahead of time is really important.
Does anybody have questions? And the food service, correct me if I'm wrong, Lorraine, that preceptor does not need to be an RT. That's the only one. All others do, but the food service preceptor does not.
Food service preceptors many times are not anyway.
Okay. If you think of questions, hit us up at the end or throw them in the chat. We'll switch gears a little bit. Okay, Leah.
Okay, so as I said, I'm Leah Holbrook. I'm the Associate Director of the Master's Program. We offer a 36 credit Master's in Nutrition that is not only for interns, although it is taken often by a majority of our interns. So whether you end up pursuing a Stony Brook internship spot or not, this is certainly still an option for you. It is an asynchronous program, which means that it is predominantly done without the requirement of being online at the same time with your classmates or your instructor. So within the courses, there is obviously still all the same things you'd expect, lectures, readings, assignments, but they can be accessed on the learning platform at a time that works for you. And then the due dates, go along with that. So yes, you will have due dates on a weekly basis. There will be material to work through on a weekly basis, but the beauty of it is that you can work around your internship commitments, school commitments, job commitments, whatever it may be. And the other real benefit is that should you want to relocate after the internship or for a job opportunity or a family obligation, you won't have to worry about maintaining your ability to complete your graduate work. You'll be able to do that from anywhere. So it really does work well for somebody who's looking for flexibility. It's a master's that is our instructors are either working inpatient at our institution or on the larger university campus, or we've also recruited adjuncts from around the country who work in areas like integrative nutrition, for example, an RD working out of a practice in Arizona. So we feel that the material is really innovative. We have concentrations that really touch on, important topics and also where there is opportunity for job growth. And so the first, there's two concentrations and there's a generalist option. So within the 12 required courses, you would specialize in either advanced nutrition therapy and critical care, which is popular among our DIs, or integrative nutrition therapy, also popular within our DIs. There is a third option, which is called generalist, which is a general option that does not have a specific specialization, and instead you sort of integrate some of the more elective type courses into your core requirements. But most students who are pursuing the RD pathway do choose one of these two, and that's probably something we would support as well. So the way it works is there's 12 courses, and 7 of those would be core. They would be the same across all 3 options. And then your courses, there's 3 concentration courses, and then the remaining 2 are made up with what we call selective options. They're electives, but you select them from a list. So we refer to them as selectives. Keep in mind as well that if you have taken 6 Stony Brook graduate credits in our master's program, and you have an undergraduate GPA of a 3.2 or higher, and you subsequently apply to our internship, distance or on-site, you are guaranteed an interview. So not a spot in the internship, but an interview. So that is great for some students who might be delaying entrance into a DI or who don't match the first time around and they choose to pursue some graduate work in their gap year. So keep that in mind as well. Also important to mention is that as I said, you don't have to be a Stony Brook DI to pursue the master's, but if you are a Stony Brook DI and you pursue the master's concurrently, there are some benefits to doing that. So that's outlined for you here. Let me walk you through this a bit because it can be a little confusing. So students can opt to pursue the master's. They can begin the summer before their DI year, or for you guys are a July start. So depending upon when you finish your undergrad work, the semester before, or you can go right into the master's at the same matriculation term as you go into your internship. So there's a lot of different ways in which you can do this. However, in order to benefit from what I'm about to lay out for you, you need to be duly matriculated in both the internship and the master's in your final semester. So you can't go longer than the internship without being matriculated in the master's, okay? And the benefits there, as I said, there's 12 courses. 3 of those 12 have an overlap with the internship work that you'll be doing. So HFN 580 is a course called Practical Applications. That course is typically taken for a traditional master's student who is not in our internship toward the end of their experience, but for a DI, they would take that course in their final semester in which they're duly matriculated, so the last overlapping semester, and you would be enrolling and paying the tuition, but the benefit comes from utilizing one of your modules, so one of your rotation-related assignment packages, to submit to satisfy the requirements for 580. So you're not saving on tuition in that instance, but you are saving quite a bit on with effort. There's 2 additional benefits where you're not only benefiting time and effort, but also tuition. So there's an additional 6 credits that you can challenge out of as a result of meeting certain competencies in the DI and participating in certain activities in the DI. And that would come at the end of your experience with the internship. So if you are duly matriculated, you have the opportunity to essentially walk away from the internship with 9 of your 36 credits completed. Again, 3 of which you pay for, 6 of which you pay a challenge fee instead of tuition, which amounts to $200 per challenge course. So you're getting 6 credits for about $400. That's the way the opportunity would work. And then you can continue your coursework after the DI. You can also take additional courses while you're in the internship or the term before, if that's an option for you. So there's a lot of ways in which you can leave the internship with quite a number of graduate credits. But if you want to just focus predominantly on the DI, you can just do these courses that I just mentioned that don't have an additional effort involved, and then ramp up your graduate studies when you're not in the internship, possibly with the help of employer, tuition reimbursement, or just the fact that you're getting a paycheck can also be helpful when you're paying for graduate school. So I'm thinking, I think that pretty much covers the basics. Our learning management system is fairly intuitive. We work really hard to make the courses consistently laid out so that you're not experiencing a different layout and dashboard every semester. So you will see a lot of consistency among the courses. And I think that's about what I can offer. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Or I'll also be here at the end.
And I just wanted to add that if you opt to do your internship elsewhere, that please consider this as a viable option too, because it's online. It can follow you wherever you go. And if you apply to Stony Brook via DICAS, I can use pieces of your Stony Brook DICAS application for the master's. So it makes it a little easier. Just reach out to me.
And Stony Brook tuition is very competitive, both in-state and out. So do keep that in mind as well.
Okay. So what are some of the highlights of our program? I know we just went through a lot of details. It'll be recorded for you to listen and review again, but we're going to highlight a few things. So first is the option to complete the master's in nutrition, but not a requirement to do so at this time. So if you are planning to finish before January 24, so if you're coming into the academic year 22-23 full-time, then you'll finish before January 24, and you are not required to have a master's until January 24. So again, give yourself some flexibility in terms of your schedule, how many courses you need to take, whether you'll get a position later on where part of that master's will be paid for. So we didn't want to burden students with requiring a master's until we have to, which is the 23-24 academic year for full-time students. So keep that in mind, that flexibility might come in handy for you. We have an integrative nutrition therapy perspective. So if you do the master's and you take that integrative nutrition therapy track, I teach one of those courses there, and I practice in an integrative nutrition therapy way or manner. For example, with my patients, I have a lot of patients with GI types of conditions. So we do some very interesting elimination diets and antimicrobial supplements and herbs to heal the gut, etc. So that's a very growing field, and a lot of people really are suffering from those kind of conditions, and the integrative nutrition therapy practices perspective is really quite helpful. So that's a growing area of interest. There are jobs in that area, so that is an interesting perspective. As I mentioned, our dietetic internship program is housed in this really big nutrition division, which affords you the access to many RDs that practice in different areas. So we have career seminar, we have a lot of different activities, events, workshops, talks, where many of the RGs throughout the division participate. So even though you're not here, you will get to meet and hear from a lot of them. With the distance DI, you can plan your own schedule based on your interests, perhaps where you would like to land a job eventually. So that is a big benefit. It does come with that requirement to find your sites. So for those of you that have that network, it's usually quite successful and quite helpful. When you come to us for orientation and evaluation and review week, we do have, through the School of Medicine and the academic side of our division, access to a clinical skills training center, which allows us to provide you with an experience to, in the beginning of the internship, practice your nutrition therapy and assessment interview education skills with patients who are really trained actors. So it's a very live feeling, but it is a kind of protective learning environment. Your sessions are taped, so you get feedback from faculty, you review it and get feedback, and the actors will give you feedback from the patient's perspective. So it's a great training platform that we do during orientation before you actually start your rotations. And then at the end, it's a great way for you to show off your skills that you've attained during the internship, and for you to see your own growth from the beginning to the end. Those two different experiences are similar, and they're both videotaped, so you'll see your progress, which is a big confidence builder. We have, during the research rotation that you do with me, late afternoons, early evenings, we access the Stony Brook medical records, and we devise and develop a very robust CQI project. CQI projects are required by every Joint Commission accredited institution. So it's a great experience. You'll learn how to do this so well. I teach you how to use Excel, you probably already know, but perhaps to a little bit more detail to create data extraction sheets and do the analysis. And ultimately you end up with a presentation, PowerPoint presentation, that gets nicely highlighted in your professional portfolio, which is basically something that we require that you develop, that will have you use during mock interviews and hopefully on real interviews for jobs. So it's one of those projects that just really stands out in your portfolio and helps to showcase a variety of different skills related to nutrition therapy, and also in in CQI. You will have access to the Stony Brook library system with all of its e-journal subscriptions and databases. There is a lot available online now, open access, but there still are some databases that are quite cost prohibitive for individuals or hospitals to get, or they're not available to the general public, that you would have access to through Stony Brook. And that's also something to mention to potential preceptors. So if you have a preceptor who does practice outpatient and he or she's curious about supplements, one of the databases is a really rich database for integrative nutrition therapies and supplements. So it's quite, I use it a lot, it's quite useful. So we create a very fast-paced, dynamic, and diverse Dietetic internship experience for you. We are looking for interns that are comfortable with that. Again, with the distance one, there's a bit of independence, but one of the highlights really that I should put as a bullet point is we stay very, very close. We stay in very close contact with you. We have 2 calls with you, video conference calls with you to check in with you. How are you doing? Any challenging situations that you want to talk about? We want to make sure that you're developing certain skills and we can assess that. If not, you know, the way your preceptor is teaching you how to calculate tube feedings isn't quite clicking with you, well, we'll put you in touch, or Lorraine or Kara will, you know, reteach that to you. So those calls twice a month are really for us to kind of keep in touch, see how you're doing, but also to fill in the gaps. Again, because we have so much expertise here at Stony Brook, and help you to attain all the competencies that you need to attain to be a successful RD and pass the exam. And at the end, we have a career development seminar. We talk a lot about interviewing. We do mock interviews. We have RDs from different fields come and talk as part of a panel. We talk about this idea of a professional portfolio to help you with your job interviews. So that's kind of the finishing touch before we send you off. All right, so those are our highlights. Any questions about any of that?
So there's a question in the chat, whether we can apply via the pre-select option.
No. We have not done that. I will say though, our distance DI is still relatively new. We have 30, I shouldn't say 30, we have 15 seats that will open up for this academic year, and we have not filled those seats yet. So of course, we are looking for very qualified people who have their rotations, but with, you know, if you get through the interview process, the screening, you have the GPA, you demonstrate your skills during the interviews, we do have available space. So the pre-select option for us is not something that is so critical, if I may say so. Would you want to add anything, Lorraine or Sharon?
I have a question.
Sure.
Hello. First of all, thank you
You are
for
welcome.
putting
Hi,
this
Anthony.
on. Hi, how are you?
Good.
So in terms of the schedule, well, I'm looking at the on-site as well as the distance.
Okay.
I live in Melville, so I'm about like 55 minutes away, or give or take. I'm not sure based on traffic. So it's, and I understand that not everyone is at Stony Brook Hospital in the on-site program. Some could be at different hospitals. I was wondering what hospitals those would be, because just want to see if my commute would be maybe an hour and a half or something like that. And along with that, well, I guess I'll start with that.
So Anthony, I will say that with the on-site program, as Lorraine mentioned, and we set up these, Lorraine sets up these 16 sequences of rotations. And then during the orientation, you'll do a variety of different tasks and quizzes and assignments, and we'll be looking to match your experience and skill set with the sequence that best works for you. And we have to be very honest. I want to be very honest. We do not take your location into account. There is a chance you could be at Southampton Hospital, and I can't guarantee that you won't. You could be at Stony Brook Medicine. You could be at Mather, a Good Sam. So just have to be open-minded about that. In terms of finding your own sites for a distance DI program in the Nassau County area, that's might be a bit tight. That
Yeah.
we have a lot of internships on Long Island and New York City. So many hospitals are already committed to dietetic internship programs. Do you have family members in different parts of the state or different states that you can go spend some time with that you might want to make some calls in different parts, because many people like to precept.
Yeah.
Like we have this woman, where's Sky from, that joins us all the time?
She's in
Mississippi.
Mississippi.
All right, so maybe I'm not sure if you want to go down south, but there are places where there aren't a lot of internships, and people that work in hospitals would love to have an intern. Nassau County is going to, Mike, I'm just being very honest with you, Anthony, unless you have you would explore and you could start doing some cold calling, or if you've worked in a hospital, if you have any networks. But I know, because we get calls here at Stony Brook, people wanting to do a distance DI with us, and we have to say no.
Yeah.
So just
I definitely have been looking, and it's
tight.
I've been cold calling everything. I work at NYU Winthrop. They work with Post, as do many.
In
as do
Nassau,
many in Nassau. They work with Post. So I
So
have
even
been
though
finding it.
even though you work at Winthrop, they won't take you on.
Unfortunately, I'm in the nutrition department as well. But they keep it pretty strict with Post, and they usually only take one intern at a time. So that's unfortunate, but obviously, if I had to commute, I would do it. I'm very interested in the program. But I am looking into the distance program to see if it could be closer on, but I would still be affiliated with Stony Brook. But I will continue to look and reach out. I did look at the list, but I saw that it wasn't any in the area. Like one was upstate in Albany and one was in the city, but not for M&T, I believe. So yeah, I will continue looking. I guess another question I have, which is a little different type of question, is regarding the integrative nutrition therapy. I have type 1 diabetes, which is what brought me into this field. I was diagnosed just a couple years ago, actually. And I was wondering if you have experience with like approaches with integrative nutrition with diabetes. I know you said GI disorders.
And with type 2, there are some supplements that can help. And I don't want to practice nutrition therapy on Zoom.
No, it's okay.
The type 1, you have a lot of flexibility with the pump and glucose sensors. But if you're looking at, preventing long-term complications and whatnot, there's some interesting keto-like programs. I'm not a fan of keto per se. Intermittent fasting is interesting. So I don't work in our diabetes center, and just really working on decreasing inflammation, I think is really important.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that.
Sure.
And I guess I had one more question regarding the schedule if you do the distance program. I know it ends around end of April. So is typically every intern on a same schedule, because can you finish it before then? Can you finish it after then? Is it more flexible in that way?
Yes. You want to answer that, Lorraine?
Yeah, so it depends kind of on your preceptors. One may say yes, but they may not take you right away because they have maybe another intern or they have vacations with their staff. So everyone can finish up at a different rate. So, and you might you may not do inpatient first, you may do food service first, and then you do inpatient, those kind of things. So everybody's at a different level and everybody can kind of finish and shape their program. That's one of the good things about the distance. You can shape it the way you want it.
Okay. Does it have to be finished by a certain time
Well, you're going to want to finish most of your rotations, if not all, by that week in April.
Okay.
So if you still had maybe your community rotation to finish up after, we can work with you in that regard, and but that review week is really what's going to be the problem, because if you're not almost done with your rotations, then you have to wait until the following year to do the
That's the thing, is you could then go part-time, but then you have to, that you have to be ready to get something out of that review week. So you need to be close to finishing, or you spill into the next year.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other questions so far? Okay.
Okay, Lorraine, talk fast.
Okay. So anyway, Stony Brook University, very proud of our record, and Stony Brook's been ranked in the top 50 public national universities by US News and World Report. We've been named among the top 15 teaching hospitals in the country, and we attract a lot of research dollars, more than any other college or university on Long Island, Brooklyn, and Queens. So these are things that we're very, very proud of, and try to, give, even through a distance perspective. Josephine does a very over and above job on the research rotation. So you do leave with very good research and CQI skills. You can use Excel to the maximum level pretty much that you can use Excel to. And for people who don't have access to other statistical programs. So this is all very good things and very good skills to have going into the field. And I'm also just going to say that Aloria will be coming on, and when Sharon completes this, who's a previous intern, but she's in a meeting, so she'll maybe.
No, she's on, Lorraine.
Oh, she's on already?
Yep.
Terrific. Okay.
So we'll introduce Gloria in 1 second. This is our website. The URL is at the bottom of the screen. If you click on the strawberries on that box, that will bring you to the more specific distance pages. And on there, on the left-hand side, you'll see something to the effect of preceptors, finding preceptors or sites or something like that. And on there is where you'll find those forms that I went over before. And certainly on this website as well is all of our contact information. Up top, you'll see all the way on the right, contact. Feel free to reach out to any of us if you do have questions on that. And then lastly, do follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We have pages for the internship, our nutrition, and for the rooftop farm as well. And that's it for our slideshow. If anyone has questions that we can answer, otherwise we are going to turn it over to Aloria.
And the faculty will step off so that you can ask her questions without us, hearing. Maybe you want to ask about real life experience and not have to worry about how you're wording the question. But I want to see Aloria hop on. How are you, Aloria?
Hi, Aloria.
You are still muted. Whoops. Well, I hope your mic works. There you go.
I tested it. Does it work?
Yes,
we
it
can hear you
does.
now.
So you graduated about 2 years ago. Am I remembering correctly? Or was it 3?
Oh my gosh.
Who knows?
It feels like a decade.
Well, it's awesome to see you. Really awesome to see you.
Likewise.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be available. It managed to work out. So.
Excellent. Okay, we are going to step off so the prospective interns can ask you questions, and wishing you all the best, Gloria. Thanks for your interest.